I just want to play how the international media is reacting to this. Just take a look at some of the comments that we are getting at the moment. Washington Post, Indian government raids BBC offices in wake of documentary critical of Modi. Take a look at what the New York Times is saying. Indian tax agents raid BBC offices after airing of documentary critical of Prime Minister Modi. The Wall Street Journal, again, Indian authorities search BBC offices after contentious Modi documentary. These are just some of the headlines I'm playing out. CNN, Indian authorities raid BBC offices after broadcast of the Modi documentary. The Guardian, in London, BBC offices in India raided by tax officials amidst Modi documentary fallout. And Al Jazeera, Indian tax agents raid BBC offices in wake of Modi documentary. All of these cover symbol are linking the raids to the Modi documentary. To that extent, is this terrible optics for the government, or do you believe the government can ride out this storm?
Oh, I don't think it's much of a problem, though, of course, Washington Post, New York Times, Guardian, Al Jazeera, Wall Street Journal that you have cited, they have always written very negatively about India. Now, if they were writing objectively about India, then whatever they write negatively, it can be then assessed on merits. But if they have this long-standing animosity towards India, everything Indian, then I think we should take it in our stride, because all this is predictable.
No, but with due regard, Mr. Sibal, can we completely identify India and the Modi government? They may be critical of the Modi government. That doesn't mean they are critical of India.
Of course it is like that. After all, it's the Prime Minister of India, is the ruling party of India. How do you dissociate the ruling party and the Prime Minister from India? The target is both the Prime Minister, BJP, and India. It's absolutely right. So you can't say the Prime Minister doesn't represent India. Can we take that position? Or the BJP as the majority party in the country doesn't represent the majority of Indians? Of course.
No, but when they criticize the Modi government, are they criticizing India in your view?
Of course, because they are attacking the governance of India. They are attacking the policies that the government of India is pursuing in India. They are actually denigrating the Prime Minister, and through that, India and how it is governed and its image. It's all interlinked. You can't separate the Prime Minister from India. Definitely not.
But should we therefore, in your view, ignore what the foreign media says? Should we, particularly this G20 year, when we have the presidency, ignore what they're saying?
Rajiv, two things. You know, when you say foreign media, what you really mean is Anglo-Saxon media. The rest of the world is not bothered one bit. You think that ASEAN is bothered, or Africa is bothered, or Latin America is bothered, or the Central Asian states are bothered, Russia is bothered, China is bothered? Not at all. They all suffered at the hands of the BBC. So they'll be quite happy that some government has the courage to actually deal with BJP as they should be dealt with if they are transgressing the law. They will applaud
BBC, Freudian slip.
BBC, yes. That they should deal with BBC the way it should be dealt with if they transgress the law. It's only the Anglo-Saxon world. And they have always been very critical. Even in the Anglo-Saxon world, much of East Europe will not do this. The Italians and the Spanish are not particularly concerned. It's the British, the Germans now, I see that they become very critical. The French media is critical, and of course the United States media. So let's not be impressed too much by foreign condemnation. It is actually very limited in terms of the West, and we have suffered at their hands for a long time. As for G20, and I'll finish with that.
Yes.
I would agree that G20 is a time when they could exploit this in order to make it a little awkward for India, I mean the international press. On the other hand, I think the answer to that is that when you criticize the government of India and taking some action against BBC, has this media ever criticized the banning of all Russian media in their own countries? In their own countries. What happens to freedom of expression in that case? What happens to the public being properly informed of what is happening, have an alternative view, accept dissent? They want to protect their public from anything that comes from Russia because they feel insecure that the truth may come out. Now, if they're so worried about that as mature democracies, then I think we have answers if there's any criticism on that score. And they're coming to the G20. It's not as if they're not members of the G20. So they're not worried about what impression this will create on the global South, which is watching all this.
Okay.